draw this out with Russians and then in the Chinese especially, you saw a difference between their sufferings. You mentioned their attitude and their disposition. Can you describe briefly what that was and the approach that the Chinese had that was different than the Russians?
Well, there were a number of things, but one of the things that the Russians did, the communists there were very smart, and they swallowed the church piece by piece by piece over 70 years, that when communism failed, the church had been swallowed up to its chin and didn't even know it. And they just did this piecemeal. There's just ways they did this over decades at a time. And all these pastors and religious leaders had to report to a communist handler once a week. And they just slowly got you used to telling them what's going on in the church. And yet in China, by the time 48, 49 was over, every believer there knew that the communists were not going to be happy until every church was destroyed and every believer dead. Same goal in Russia, but because they were so devious and they let you keep your churches, and they let you keep your seminaries, and they let you keep your houses and properties for your pastor. And then what they did, they held you hostage to them. You see, you don't allow evil to hold you hostage to God's blessings. And if you need to walk away from a building, walk away from it. You need to walk away from a seminary established, walk away from it. And yet the Chinese and the communists in China ripped them out of the very fabric of society within a less than 24-month period, that the Chinese believers knew, well, they're going to kill us. They're going to kill every one of us. So we might as well go out loving, go out living, and go out witnessing. And so they knew there was no compromise. And yet in the Soviet Union, some of the places in the satellite countries, when the records were, when communism fell so quickly, brother, that the church got all those records of what pastors and denominational workers told the bad guys. And some of those places, 90% of the clergy, denominational leaders lost their position in their church and their denomination because of what they had told on their church members to the bad guys. Can you imagine? They take you, Travis, you've got kids, you've got a wife, and you're sitting in that chair across from your communist handler, and they say, you know, Travis, I like you. I really don't want anything bad to happen to you, but Travis, your wife walks through these back streets coming from the market. You might, Travis, you might want to tell her she needs to stay where the light is, because we're trying to stop it, but we can't. But acid's being thrown in the face of some of the pastors' wives. Oh, I'd hate, Travis, to see something happen to your wife. So you might want to keep her at home. And they do that with and what they'll do, they take your kids, they put them in the middle of a gym, and the whole school's there, and they ridicule your children. They make your kids stay after school, stand at attention before the principal's desk. Administrators, teachers are there, and they make fun of your kids because their parents are Christians, and your 9, 7, 8-year-old kids come home and say, why can't we be like other kids? Why can't you get a real job? Why do you know what they're doing to me there? But as that plays out, if their parents love their enemies and their parents do good to those who hate them and despitefully use them and spit upon them, about 12, 13, 14 years of age, their kids will look at the lives of their parents and the lives of the persecutors, and they choose Jesus. See, what the communists know, what the persecutors know, if they can separate yours and my kids, our kids, from our faith, in one generation, Christianity's dead. And what has not happened in persecution is happening in America, that our kids are walking away from church at 17, 18 years of age, and certainly by their first year in college, without a shot being fired, without anybody being tortured or anybody going to prison. We're losing that whole generation.